Hey solos! So you're going to Walt Disney World by yourself. Are there extra things that you could do to make your solo trip even more enchanting and even more magical and even more fun than just a regular trip to Disney World, which is already enchanting and magical and fun? Solo spoiler, yes, there is. In fact, at 3 out of the 4 parks, there are Enchanting Extras that are extra, specially ticketed, behind-the-scenes things, and partaking in them, especially solo, is just a fantastic experience. And also cheaper, because you're just paying for yourself and not like a whole gaggle of people. Hi, everyone, it's Samantha. Olaf may not know who Samantha is, but now you do, and welcome to Disney Solo Magic, the podcast, the number 1 podcast for solo travel to Disney World. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about the Enchanting Extras that you can do at the parks. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about the Keys to the Kingdom tour. Actually, not a little bit. I'm going to provide some spoilers, but don't worry. I'm going to have like staged spoilers. So there's going to be like an exit ramp. So you can decide what level of spoilers that you want. And I promise you, you will not get any spoilers against your consent. Hashtag consent is sexy. So I'm going to talk about all the Enchanting Extras, including Keys to the Kingdom. I've done most of them, I think, and they've all been really, really cool and such excellent things to do solo. So I can't wait to share them with you. And also solos, I've totally missed you. Last week I didn't do an episode because Milton was coming and I just kind of like stayed offline. I'm also working on another project for like my non-Disney life. And so my head was kind of there. It was all quite hurricane-y, kind of like Hamilton hurricane, in the eye of the hurricane. I'm not going to keep singing, but maybe you'll get the point. I was doing a lot of writing my way out. Anyway, we can talk about Hamilton another time. So I've missed you. I've missed kind of back into the Disney swing of things. And I had recorded this episode already, but I was like, let's just re-record it. I'm so excited to like revisit the Keys to the Kingdom that I just thought, let's just redo it. And some of you provided me some feedback on audio stuff, and I really appreciate that. There's some audio things that people have mentioned, which I appreciate. Again, I'm trying to figure out the best kind of platform to do editing, and I can't hear them when I'm editing, but I then hear it back when you point it out in my headphones. So I'm going to need to figure that out. Hopefully there won't be any issues with this, but I appreciate your patience as we work through those things. When I had a podcast before, I was using a different platform that's no longer available. So, it's all a bit of an experiment. Now, you could be listening to this on Apple, you could be listening to this on Spotify, or you could be listening to this on YouTube. And if you were listening to it on one of those, know that you can listen to it on all 3 if you would like. As always, Instagram is the best way to get in touch with me. I'm also on Facebook and Threads, and the link is in the description below. Have I missed anything? I don't think so. Let's get into it. All right. So let's talk about Enchanting Extras. Now, everything that I'm talking about, you can find on the Disney World website if you go to Things to Do, and then it will say Enchanting Extras, and that's where you can find how to book a lot of these things. Now, you can do a special photo shoot. That's an additional fee at all of the parks, and that will show up as an Enchanting Extra. I'm not going to talk about that. You can also make your own lightsaber and make your own avatar figure at Hollywood Studios and at Animal Kingdom. And I'm not going to talk about those either. Instead, I'm going to talk about these like behind the scenes tours and things like that. And you can do those at Magic Kingdom. You can do those at Animal Kingdom. And there's like 1, 2 things you can do at EPCOT. And there really isn't anything that you can do at Hollywood Studios. Let me know if I'm wrong. And like I said, there's a couple things you can do at EPCOT, but I just feel like they can do so much more. So the majority of this conversation is going to be about the things you can do at Magic Kingdom and at Animal Kingdom. Now, everything I'm going to talk about today is an additional fee, and it's an additional fee on top of your park ticket. So even if you are booking the $150 experience at Animal Kingdom, blah, 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 you still need to have a ticket to Animal Kingdom. So if you are doing both of those things, like if you are just buying a ticket, like a one-off ticket plus your Enchanting Extra, and like that's all you're doing, then yeah, it gets kind of costly. If you're an annual pass holder, and so you can already get into the parks, you've already paid that admission somewhere else. So again, hashtag girl math, you're not really thinking about the cost of that. Then I guess it kind of like helps a little bit. You do get discounts for a lot of these things if you're an annual pass member, but it's kind of a negligible discount. So if you're not an annual pass member, don't be too jealous. And if you're a Disney Vacation Club member, I think you also get a discount as well. Now, the price range for all of them, and I'll mention that when I'm talking about them, there really is like this huge span of different prices. So you can do a few things that are like, I don't know, like $50 and under, like $35 to $50. And then there are other things that you can do that are like over $100, from like 130 to like almost 200. And there's really nothing in the middle. If you're like, okay, I got $60 or $70, what are we going to do? There isn't really anything in the middle. It's either kind of like $50 or these a lot more expensive ones. Now, I should say the ones that are a lot more expensive, everything I've done has always been worth the price. So if price isn't something that you're really kind of concerned about, then obviously book whatever you want. But if, like you're really like, oh my gosh, is this really going to be worth it for like $150? I will just say I've done, like I said, almost all of them. They are definitely worth it. And a lot of the ones that are a lot more money take a lot more time and usually include something to eat. So anyway, I definitely think these are worth checking out. So let's talk about them and start at Magic Kingdom. There is one main Enchanting Extra at Magic Kingdom, which is the Disney's Key to the Kingdom tour. Now, I'm going to be talking about this 3 times. I'm going to talk about this right now. I'm just going to do a quick overview. Then I'm going to do all the other Enchanting Extras. And then at the end of the episode, I'm going to provide a few more details about the Keys to the Kingdom tour. And then after that, I'm going to again give you another exit ramp if you don't want any spoilers. And that last little bit of the episode, I'm just going to like talk all about my experiences doing Keys to the Kingdom twice, like the things I got to see and like all of that stuff. But if you want to go in carte blanche and not have any expectations, then you can just listen right now and that's completely fine. There's no spoilers here. So the Keys to the Kingdom tour is about $130, $150. The price will change, depending on the date, all that stuff. And you can't be under 15. So it's really all like teenagers, young adults, and then adults. Because they don't want to ruin the magic for the kids. And the first time I did Keys to the Kingdom, I had a lot of friends and family who were like, oh my gosh, I don't know if you should do that. Like, it could ruin the magic for you too. But I did not find that at all. I did not find that it ruined the magic for me. I found that it really enhanced the magic because you got to hear history and you got to do behind the scenes stuff and all that stuff. But they don't want to, burst the bubbles for the kids. Keys to the Kingdom is 5 hours and it includes lunch. So you do need to have a Magic Kingdom park ticket on that day. And just so you know, if you don't get a reservation or if there's something that's barring you from getting into the park on the day that you have the ticket, just talk to a cast member. They'll be able to get you in. That's what happened to me actually 2 years ago. I was there and there was like a Hurricane Nicole, although I think it turned into a Category 4 storm. I don't know. It turned into a storm, I think. And so we had to, everyone, they canceled all of the different things. They closed the parks early, just like what happened with Milton, although it wasn't as serious as Milton. And they canceled my tour. So when they knew when the parks were going to open, I quickly went online. I found another time on the same day. I was able to book it. That's great. But I wasn't able to get a park reservation. So I went and talked to a cast member and it was no problem. No problem at all. So don't worry about that. So you will need to have a park ticket and a park reservation for Keys to the Kingdom. It starts in the morning. So it can start as early as 8 in the morning. And I think there are start times that go until 9:30. And this is because it is a 5-hour tour. And so you are going to be there until the mid-afternoon. And both times I did it, it was pouring rain when we were done. And that's because it's like the middle of the afternoon in Florida and it always rains, right? So anyway, it took all day. But it didn't feel like a long time. It definitely was packed full of stuff. They stopped for lunch, they stopped for bathroom breaks, and you could always like pop to a kiosk and get water or whatever as well. So it was well worth the 5 hours of a day. You meet by the like Tony's Town Square restaurant. You meet right in the middle of Main Street. It's a small group of about 20 people. You have a guide, a cast member who's a guide. You all wear earpieces so that you are able to hear the guide as they are walking through the park. And there, like I said, there aren't a lot of places to sit down. So just kind of keep note of that. And they will provide options because there are a few places with stairs. And so they will provide some options if you have mobility devices. But if you don't have any mobility devices but still will need to sit a lot, then like maybe get a mobility device, like maybe rent a scooter for that day, or maybe like bring one of those like canes or walkers that are also a chair if you're concerned about that. Now, this is not going to be any spoilers. I don't think that this is a spoiler, but like I said, you will get lunch and you'll also get a chance to ride 2 rides. And you don't get to choose those. Those are part of the tour. So the tour guide will provide you information. Then you'll go and you'll take part in the ride or attraction. And then they'll come back and they'll tell you a little bit more about it. So it's not like those VIP passes where they'll help you like get through the lines for all the extra rides. This is an information historical tour that involves rides as part of the teaching practices as well as lunch. You also get a chance to go behind the scenes in places that most guests don't get to see, which is super cool. And there are 2 opportunities during the tour where you will go backstage. And I will tell you more about that later in the episode if you are interested in hearing about that. It is well worth it. I have never heard anybody say anything bad about the Keys to the Kingdom tour. I've done it twice. I was kind of like worried they were going to be very similar experiences, but no, they were completely different. Even though a lot of the information was the same and like the beats were the same of the tour, and like the stops were the same, the tour guides came with such their own perspectives on things that it just really felt like a completely different experience. And everyone on the tour was so friendly and exciting and excited. And it was like just a cool thing to do solo. And if you're solo, they'll usually seat you with the tour guide so you don't feel alone, and that's really special as well. But it's really cool. It is not weird to go alone at all because you're all just so excited to hear all this information. Well worth it. All right, let's talk about EPCOT. So there are 3 different kind of behind the scenes things that you can do at EPCOT. And to be honest, I think that 3 is a bit of a shame. Like, I do not understand why there's only 3. Like, how cool would it be to do these behind the scenes tours at all of the different cultural pavilions? Like, that would just be incredible. I'm just really surprised that EPCOT hasn't done more behind the scenes things. But anyway, be that as it may. So they have one that is called Dive Quest. You have to be a certified scuba diver already, and it costs over $200, and you go scuba diving in the Seas Pavilion. So that seems pretty cool, I guess, but you have to be a scuba diver, and you have to like come in with your scuba certificate. So you're not going to learn there. There's also another activity at the Seas Pavilion, which is Dolphins in Depth, and that's a 2-hour dolphin encounter. Now, I know that they have moved or that they are moving the dolphins to a different place to live, like a different place outside of Disney. So I don't know how long that's going to be in play for, but anyway, you can still do it. It's still up on their website. I don't know anyone that has done it. You can only have 8 different guests at this particular activity. It's over $200, and it seems like a really cool thing that would be done solo. You have to wear a wetsuit and all of that, but I've never met anyone that's done it. So if you have, please let me know. The main kind of behind the scenes thing is at Living with the Land, and that is behind the seeds. Clever little name. It's about a 1 hour behind the scenes tour of the different greenhouses, the laboratories, and the fish farm that you all see while you're doing the Living with the Land tour, like on the little boat ride and everything. I've done it a couple times, and what's really interesting about the behind the scenes tour is that I really strongly believe that the greenhouses were built for this programming. There are walkways, there are places that you stand, and it really is very clear to me that these spaces were designed for these types of behind the scenes interactions. So it does feel a little scripted. It's not like the Keys to the Kingdom tour where it is very contingent on the tour guide that you get in terms of the experience and the things that you will learn. I really think that every time you're going to do the behind the scenes tour, it's going to seem exactly the same because it is like designed for this type of interaction. There is going to be a new one this year called Glimmering Greenhouses Behind the Seeds, and that's going to be in the month of December during the International Festival of the Holidays, and it's going to be an evening behind the seeds tour where they're going to like be able to highlight all the lights and everything in the greenhouses. I have been trying to get a spot to one of those during my December trip, and it's been really, really tough. And to me, that really indicates like the people do want to have more of these behind the scenes activities. So I'm really hoping that I do get a chance to be able to do that. But the behind the scenes tour without the glimmering greenhouses part of it is really, really cool in and of itself. You'll be able to try some of the things that they grow there. You'll be able to touch and smell and ask questions. And it's really, really great. It's very entertaining, but it's mainly educational. When I've done it, there haven't been any children on the tours. And it's really very much like an adult thing. Every time I've done it, there's been an adult there. I say adult as if like I'm not like older than a lot of the people on the tour. Every time I've done the tour, there's been somebody that's like, oh, well, I have a garden and we do this. How does it relate? Or how does it compare to what you do here? And the cast members are always so great at fielding those questions. So if you actually are an adult and have some questions like that you want to kind of explore or talk about, then it's really cool to be able to do that on the Living with the Land Behind the Seeds tour. Obviously, it's like a different pace than the boat, so you'll be able to get a closer look at things. Like, for example, the vertical, oh my gosh, I can't remember. I want to say zucchini. I don't even think that's right, but it's like grown vertical and then it like moves. It's like on a conveyor belt. You're so close to that. You're not like touching it. They're very strict about that, but you're so close to that. Whereas when you're standing on the boat or sitting on the boat, obviously, you just get to see it in passing. So it's really cool, especially if you love plants and gardening and things like that. And that is about $40 to $50. And again, a great thing to do solo. There's nothing about it that would be awkward if you were there by yourself. Now, there are quite a lot of times that they run these during the day. Again, they're about an hour long and they run them all day. So the odds of you getting a spot are pretty good, all things considered. It runs like 6, 7, 8 times a day, and it runs in the morning and it goes all the way through to the afternoon. So again, there's a lot of different options, especially if you're flexible with your time, which you can often be when you're going solo, which is great. Now, there aren't any Enchanting Extras at Hollywood Studios that are like tours or things like that. There are the custom built lightsabers and droids and all that stuff. But in terms of tours, there isn't going to be a tour of Galaxy's Edge or Sunset Boulevard or anything like that. And I don't know, that's a little disappointing. It would be really cool to do a little bit of a walking tour. Of Sunset Boulevard, because that's like the thing that I like there the most. It would be really cool to do that. And so it's kind of disappointing that there isn't, but Animal Kingdom sure makes up for it. So there are 4 different Enchanting Extras that you can do at Animal Kingdom. And I have done 3 out of 4 of them, and they've all been so cool and so worth it. So the most inexpensive one is called Caring for Giants, and that is a behind the scenes look at the different elephants. This is about $40 to $50. And what you're doing is you are getting in a little van and you're driving backstage to a different viewing platform to see the elephants on the savannah. And actually, when you're doing the regular Kilimanjaro safari tour. If you look out when you see the big elephants where sometimes the babies are and stuff, you might see just kind of beyond where the elephants are, there's a little viewing platform, and that is where you are going to see Caring for the Giants. Now, if you are an elephant fan, this is an amazing thing to do. Now, you don't get to touch them, and you're not even talking to any of the keepers. You are going to be talking to one of the cast members that works closely with the elephants, and they'll tell you all about them and their names and their preferences and all that stuff. But it's not like you're going to be, working with the vet or anything like that. You also aren't going to be able to touch the elephants. So if you're really hoping to be able to touch and pet and clean up, or I don't know, all that stuff, you're not going to be able to do that. It just gives you a closer look at the elephants, and from a viewing platform that isn't driving you on to the next place, where you can really just kind of sit and watch. And when I did it, the mom elephant was teaching the baby elephant something, and it was really just cool to kind of sit there for 10 minutes watching them. And then I had some questions, and I went over and I talked to the cast member, and they had all the answers, and it was really, really cool. And again, this is the most inexpensive of them all, $40, and to be able to go for 45 minutes to an hour to just be able to see the elephants from a different vantage point, very well worth it. Up Close with Rhinos is the next least expensive one, and that starts at $50. This one is similar in that you are going to see the rhinos up close, but the difference is that this one you're going to be seeing the rhinos behind the scenes, backstage. So again, you get into a little van and you go behind the scenes, but here you get to go where the rhinos have their pen, and you are going to talk to one of the more specialized zookeepers. And here you'll also get a chance to pet the rhino, which is pretty cool. And if I remember correctly, not the vet tech, the more advanced zookeeper cast member, but not the main vet. I believe they got the rhinos to interact with them as well, through something like food or enrichment or things like that. So that was really cool. It was really cool because you got to be more behind the scenes for sure. And that was really awesome to be able to see their enclosures. Plus, it's actually the rhino enclosure is very close to where the cheetahs live when they're on stage. And so that was cool too, because I'm a cat person, so to be able to be close to the cheetahs from afar, though, that was really awesome. Both of those things, there were solo people on those tours. Very, very exciting, really exciting. Again, it's an hour, not that much money. Like I said, both of these things with tax are under $60, and it doesn't take up a lot of your day. And so if you are interested in animals, then this is definitely a cool Enchanting Extra to do. The next two Enchanting Extras are similar in that they are a lot more money. They are quite a few hours. Well, not quite a few hours, 2 to 3 hours. And they really provide you with a unique, special experience. So the first one is Savor the Savannah. It is just under $200, but it's $190 to $200. And this is you get into a special van, you drive through the savannah, you get to talk to a zookeeper on the savannah, you take a different route, so there are opportunities to see animals from different vantage points than you would on a normal Kilimanjaro safari. And then if you've ever done the Kilimanjaro safari and noticed on the savannah there is quite a large platform that's covered, and sometimes there's people there and they're drinking, that is where you do Savor the Savannah. After you do this kind of customized drive and you get to talk with the zookeepers, then they'll take you to that platform and they lay out this beautiful spread. It's really kind of charcuterie. They lay out this beautiful spread with different dips and salami and figs. They also have different wines from mainly Africa, I think. And then they have pog juice as well as water. I don't think they have soft drinks. I don't think they have Coke. Maybe they do. Anyway, so there's both food and beverage. And then you sit there for about 45 minutes to an hour and you're like standing on the savannah. It's amazing. And of course, the cast members will tell you even more about the savannah and the animals and the habitat. And there was this group of women who were on the tour and they just like were having a great time. They were drinking, they were eating, they were taking pictures, and they did not like get anything extra in terms of information from the cast member, which is totally cool. You do you, bibbity bobbity boo. However, I had a ton of questions. So I am like asking all these different questions, and like they had all the answers, and it was just so enriching and so cool to learn more about the animals and the habitats, but also like how Disney does this management of the animals, and it was really awesome. Then when everyone is kind of done-ish eating, they'll open up a different pathway and then you can walk and get a chance to see the lions. I mean, it's pretty much the same place that you see them when you're in the Kilimanjaro safari vehicle, but this time you can just sit there and watch them rather than them keep driving through. And that was just, oh my God, that was just so amazing, because I was standing there watching them for like 10-15 minutes. So I got to see the lion roar. I got to see the male lion roar because I was there for long enough. And yeah, that was really, oh my gosh, it was so awesome. Now, I definitely would recommend doing this, and I would definitely recommend doing it solo because it is such a special experience. However, if you are uncomfortable, like eating alone or eating with strangers, because there's tables that are set up. And so if you don't get a table by yourself, you might sit with a couple or whatever who are there, and there's a room at their table. And if you are kind of uncomfortable with like filling up time by yourself, then you might feel a little uncomfortable to do this solo, because like I said, there is food there that you're basically grazing on. You're like picking the things that you want from the charcuterie tray. You're eating them while you're watching the animals, and then you'll go watch the animals, and maybe you'll come back and eat and all that stuff. And so if you feel kind of uncomfortable, in having this time to yourself, then maybe Wild Africa Trek is a better experience for you. I did not find it awkward because I don't mind eating alone, and I have a ton of questions I want to ask the cast members, and the fact that it was like so close to the animals and I learned so much. Everything was well worth it. But I do just want to like point out that you are doing this special experience and it does revolve around food. And so if that is kind of a thing for you, maybe not, but I'm really, I'm coming up with an episode. I've said this a couple weeks, but the schedule's been so thrown off with the hurricane or whatever. I'm doing this episode about things not to do. And solo spoiler, there's going to be an activity I'm going to suggest that's not really great, and that's like kind of food oriented. But this isn't like that because there are so many things to look at and do and ask questions and talk to the cast members and things like that. So I do just want to flag, though, if that is something that you're a little bit worried about, then I don't know, just like kind of get over it and do it, because it is just so cool and the food was so delicious. I also have a pineapple allergy, and they called me beforehand and I let them know about my allergy. So I got my own food. Like everyone else had this beautiful charcuterie board that they were sharing from, but I had like this little stack of tiffins boxes of just my own food, which I kind of loved. There wasn't a lot of pineapple in like the main thing, but I did actually appreciate having my own thing. It made it a little easier to graze because I just had my own stuff. It also made it easier to like not eat too much because I'm like, no, this is my food. Yeah, it was just really well worth it. I really hope you get a chance to do it. But let's talk about Wild Africa Trek, which is the only thing I haven't done. And I was hoping maybe of doing it for my birthday this year, because I did Savor the Savannah for my birthday last year. But my birthday is so close to Labor Day weekend. This year it was right on the weekend, and with the heat, I don't know. the timing just did not feel right. So it's still on my list of things to do, and I will do it soon. So Wild Africa Trek, I haven't heard anyone ever say anything bad about this. It is expensive though. It can cost up to $250, and it is again, behind the scenes tour of the savannas and the wildlife in the savannah, but you are doing it a little bit more off track, I guess. Off road, that's the word I'm looking for. Savor the Savannah is very sitting, while Wild Africa Trek is very much like trekking, like walking. In fact, one of the things it's known for is a rope bridge over the alligator enclosure, which like seems scary. And the idea is it's supposed to seem scary, but the risk is there is no risk, really. That, like Savor the Savannah, is 3 hours, and you're going to have a privately guided tour. You go across the rope bridge, and then there is some other, like, paths and things that you go on that are a little bit more rugged. You, again, will have a cast member that knows a ton of information, and I do think you also get to talk with some zookeepers and experts and things like that. At the end, you will also get a chance to eat a little something. It's like, again, kind of charcuterie-ish, like hummus and pita and prosciutto and olives and things like that. But it's 3 hours, so by the end, you are a little peaked. So there is something to eat, and you'll probably need like a full meal after, but from what I've heard, your adrenaline is so high because of how awesome it was, then it like you don't even notice. Now, I have heard a lot of people do this solo and they said it's great, and I think because you're like doing stuff, right? It doesn't, like you might not feel quite as alone as if you're just kind of sitting and eating and looking, but again, like Savor the Savannah is awesome too. So I can't wait to do Wild Africa Trek, and I can't wait to share it with you when I do. All right. So a few episodes ago, you might remember I did some like Enchanting Extras, essentially things that you can do at resorts that like really enhance your experience. And then I promised, and this is that promise fulfilled, of an episode that talks about some of these behind the scenes Enchanting Extras that you can do at the parks. And so that's it. That's Keys to the Kingdom, Behind the Seeds, Dolphin Encounter, Caring for Giants, Up Close with Rhinos, Savor the Savannah, Wild Africa Trek. I did all those without even like looking at it. I'm very impressed with myself. And all of them are really, really awesome to do solo. Like I said, Savor the Savannah might be a little awkward if you don't like eating alone, but they were all really awesome. So please let me know on Instagram if you have done any of these. And now I want to give you spoilers for Keys to the Kingdom. I want to talk about it so bad. So I'm going to talk about Keys to the Kingdom in like overview terms. Like, this is what a tour looks like. And then I will let you know again. And then I'm going to be like, and this is what I got to see on my tour, all that stuff. So if you just want to know like, oh, what it's about, a little bit more detail, this is great. And if you want to like do your own experience, then just cut it off there. But if you're like, oh, I don't think I'll be able to do Keys to the Kingdom for a while, then listen to the whole thing and you'll get to hear some of the stuff that you'll just learn on the tour. All right, so Keys to the Kingdom, spoiler version 1. So you meet at Tony's Town Square restaurant, you get your little earpieces in, and then you walk down Main Street. One of the things that they will talk about when they're walking down Main Street is the names on all of the buildings and the history of buying the land in Florida and building the Walt Disney World resort as we know it. You'll stop in that little center street area where they do the, like the silhouette cutting out, and they'll tell you a little bit more details about all of those different elements, about the, again, buying land, the pseudonyms, things like that. I already knew a lot of that history, but both times I did the tour, I heard new elements of the history I hadn't learned before. So I thought that was really awesome. And depending on what's going on around Main Street at that time, you might get extra information. So for example, the second time I did it, it was an earlier start and they had just started like pumping out the smells on Main Street. And so it was really prominent. And so the tour guide like pointed out the different ways that things like smells are used throughout Walt Disney World to enhance the experience. So that was cool as well. So after you go down Main Street, you then go to Adventureland. In Adventureland, again, they provide information with you, like they will be talking and walking the whole time. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. The first tour guide I did, she really stopped and did a lot of the talking. The second guy, who was fantastic, he did a great job, but he like literally did not stop talking. And as somebody that's done a lot of like history tours and like worked in a lot of museums, I really just wanted to say to him, like, man, it's fine. Just like take a breath. Just like give us a pause. Let us consolidate some of this information. But he was so excited. Actually, I didn't even get a chance to say that to him because he didn't stop talking. So that's not a criticism of him. He was fantastic. So again, there's like a different style of the tour guide. When you're in Adventureland, the first time we rode Jungle Cruise as the behind the scenes. The second time we did the Tiki Room as the attraction in that area. Now Jungle Cruise was closed, and I actually was like, oh, the Tiki Room, like that's kind of an easy one to get into. Like there's no like extra perk, but the information that he provided, our tour guide provided, was so rich that it really made the Tiki Room experience like even better, because I was like looking for things and listening for things that the tour guide pointed out, and that was awesome. Then you keep going through Adventureland. And right at the place, like when you're getting to Frontierland, like right in front of Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and you might already know that's where the parade comes out, you stop there and then you go behind the scenes. And that was really awesome. You go behind the scenes there and you are walking around. This is I think a stage 1 spoiler. You get to see where they store the parade floats. You can't stop. You cannot take pictures. But you get to see where they store the parade floats. And that's really cool. You walk around that big storage building and then you see where they store the like electrical water parade floats or whatever they're called, and you walk by those, and that's really cool. Then you walk around the back of Pirates of the Caribbean. Our second tour guide loved Pirates of the Caribbean so much, so he was like, let's all just stand here and like listen to the ride. And so that was pretty cool to be able to like listen for the ride. And then we came out where Pirates of the Caribbean was. So we doubled back on ourselves. We went from Tiana's Bayou Adventure back to Pirates and came outside of Pirates. So that was pretty cool. That is a pretty standard part of the tour. Then we walk through Liberty Square and we will get lunch. Now, the first time I had lunch at Pecos Bill's. The second time I had lunch at Columbia Harbor House. You order your lunch right when the tour begins. So when you go to sign in by Tony's Town Square, the main street or whatever, when you're signing in, they'll identify a couple different lunch options. You pick which one you want. And when you show up at the restaurant, there's a special room that they have like cordoned off for you. Your meal is set up with a name tag in front of you. And then you eat your meal. And what's kind of cool actually is like, even though it's like standard stuff on the Pecos Bill and Columbia Harbor House menu, both times the portion sizes and like maybe quality of food was like, the portion sizes were way bigger and the quality of food kind of seemed higher too, but maybe that's just because there was more food on the plate. But yeah, it was a very, very hearty lunch. Now, after lunch, we went to Haunted Mansion, and that is the second ride that you get to ride as part of the Keys to the Kingdom tour. Now, what was interesting is when I did it the first time, we went from lunch right to Haunted Mansion. The second time, we were eating at Columbia Harbor House, and we were like right across from where Haunted Mansion is. And the tour guide was like, you know what? Let's do Haunted Mansion now. And I was like, well, when else would we do it? So we did it actually at the same time of the tour both times, but according to the second tour guide, we did it early. Anyway, and again, both times they provide you with some information before you get on the ride, so you're looking for things and listening for things that you might not have noticed before. Then after Haunted Mansion, both of them, you also stop where the ferry is and they provide some more information for you. So that's another kind of stop. After those two stops, they will stop at the Tangled bathroom so you can make sure you go to the bathroom. They'll also do a bathroom stop at Adventureland. And then after that, you go to the Utilidors, which is really awesome. So you might know that the Magic Kingdom that you walk on is actually the second floor because they knew about the flooding but would happen because you were building in Swampland in Florida, and because Walt Disney did not want to break the magic for the guests by having cast members in their particular costumes cross different lands. They didn't want to pirate in Liberty Village or whatever. One of the things that they did to prevent both of those things was they built a whole first floor. And that is, we will call it underground, but actually it is very much the first floor. And it is a series of hallways and tunnels and rooms and a whole complete whole world that is under the ground when you are walking on or walking through Magic Kingdom. And so the Utilidors is all behind the scenes staff area, which is just like a Disney lover's dream to see. And during the Keys to the Kingdom tour, you get to go and check it out. So both tours, we went in a slightly different area. The first tour, we went in around where Friar's Nook is, that little food kiosk beside Winnie the Pooh. And the second tour, we went in a door where the Mickey's PhilharMagic gift shop is. But essentially, it's not the same entry point. They're on opposite sides of the carousel, but in the grand scheme of the Utilidors, it's the same place. Then you are walking through the Utilidors. You cannot take pictures. Oh my God, the first tour that I did, my hand was so itchy to go into my purse and get my camera out. It was so tough not taking pictures, but you can't take pictures. And then, you do the Utilidors. There's a special path they follow. There's particular things they want to show you. In particular, they will, trying to think if this is a stage 1 spoiler or stage 2 spoiler. No, I think this is a stage 1 spoiler. Yeah. One of the places that they stop to show you is directly underneath Cinderella Castle, because they have some photographs there of the building of the castle and the building of the Utilidors. And they talk about Walt Disney and they talk about Roy Disney, and it's very cool to be there. And of course, you were underneath Cinderella's castle. It doesn't feel like Cinderella Castle. It feels like 1970s concrete bunker, although it does not feel claustrophobic at all down there. It doesn't feel claustrophobic at all, at least to me, and I can be claustrophobic sometimes. It was just really cool to hear all of this. And then you are walking. You don't do the full circle because it is a circle. The first time we came out in Tomorrowland, that little restaurant there, gosh, I can't remember its name, but that's where they do all the firework parties. The second time we came out just around Main Street, but again, kind of similar exit points. And then the tour is over and you say goodbye and take some pictures at that point if you want. And it was really cool. 5 hours, it went by super, super fast. So that is the tour overview. Now I'm going to give you some more spoilers of things I actually saw and learned, and oh my God, it was so exciting. And here's the thing about this second set of spoilers is that it might not be your tour experience. So hopefully it complements your tour experience, because every tour will be different, right? Especially if you're seeing cast members out of costume, hint, hint, because you don't know what the cast members schedules are. So anyway, let's talk about the second set of spoilers. All right. Okay. So like I said, I've done it twice. They were such different experiences. So the first time I had a tour guide who was a little bit older. I'd say she's in her 50s, and she was a cast member who did entertainment, especially parades, kind of back in the day. So she was actually one of the Sleeping Beauty fairies in the parade. I think that was her last parade role, but she knew a lot about parades. And so she would always put in some extra information about that. The second tour guide, he did custodian work. And I was like, oh, I guess we're not going to hear a lot. But no, let me just tell you, he told us so much cool stuff that he learned because he was doing custodial work. I was like blown away. I was like, well, apparently I just want to talk to custodial cast members. It was just really, really awesome. So, like everything extra we got on both of the tours, or I got on both of the tours, was kind of because their own expertise. So kind of keep that in mind. The beginning of the tour, both of the tours were pretty standard. Like I said, they talked about the pseudonyms and things like that. And it was all like educational, entertaining. There was nothing about it that like, it was all really, really cool, but nothing that like blew my socks off. The first thing on either of the tour that blew my socks off was the fact that the tiki room is like, the tiki like rattan like roof. It's not rattan, it's not straw, it's metal. And both of the times the cast member went up and touched it and made that sound so you could hear it's metal. Now, I actually heard two different stories across the two tours about why this was. The first story was that it is a lightning rod, and the second story is that it's there for durability. I actually think both of those things are true. But it was really cool the way both of the cast members told the story about this. And like, how many times have you walked by the tiki room and like not even considered that it's all metal up there? It is just amazing. In the second tour as well, he highlighted that in Adventureland, actually that whole like, not just Adventureland, Adventureland, that whole, walkway up to Pirates of the Caribbean, it actually is a bit of an evolution of technology. So it starts at Swiss Family Robinson, where it is, you're just walking through sets. Then it goes to the Tiki Room and Jungle Cruise, where there's now animatronic different characters. They're moving in the Tiki Room. They're doing some interactions, with each other, but still. And then by the time you get to Pirates, you now have these animatronics that are humans. And that was a really cool element to the planning that, again, is something that you walk through but never really think of. At Pirates of the Caribbean, my second tour guide, was so excited about Pirates of the Caribbean. And he's telling us this whole storyline that's happening just in the street that you don't even realize. So if you're standing in front of Pirates of the Caribbean and you look at it was a quick service restaurant. Now it is the gift shop. It might go back to the lounge. Anyway, that building there, you'll see actually that there are the image of cannonballs going through that building. And that's because that's supposed to be land that the pirates took over, and that those people are showing up in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. And again, it's that type of storytelling through architecture and through these touches you don't even realize is that, I just think that's what makes Disney World such a magical place. Both of the tour guides also talked about the fact that Disney, when it opened, had a ticketed system. So the rides, you had to pay a ticket to go on. And they pointed out that there was a little building outside of the Jungle Cruise, and that was one place you could buy tickets. And that there is now a building where you can do the Pirates experience, and that was another place you could get tickets. So if you ever wondered what those little small buildings were, that's what they were. Now, let's go behind the scenes. So when they are doing the behind the scenes, that is the parade stuff. So you're outside. First, it was just really, really cool to see the parades, the floats up close like that. And you definitely you can't stop. You can't take pictures. You only look as you are walking by. But what I found the most interesting was how meticulous all of the floats were parked. They were parked as if they never come out ever. It just was really it showed the thought, the commitment, the rules, and how everything like that is really followed by the cast members. And that was awesome to see. The second tour, I was able to see some of the floats from the Booty U parade, and I was able to see details that I didn't even know were on the parade floats at all. So then later that day, actually, when I went to go to see the Booty U parade, I was like, oh, right, there were those books there. I hadn't even noticed them before. So being able to see them during the day were just amazing, especially like in the day and stationary. The first time I did the tour, though, they were getting ready for the parade. So I got to see a ton of characters, like not in character. So I got to see a ton of cast members who were getting ready to go on the floats who like had their heads off. I saw this one young woman and she was like dosing herself down in hairspray, and she was Ariel from like the waist up, but she was just like some cheerleader in yoga pants from the waist down, and she's like dousing herself with sunscreen. Again, I saw another character like walk by like holding the head of one of the seven dwarfs, and because they are behind the scenes, they don't have to like talk to you or interact with you, so it was also quite weird to see some of these characters like you just saw the real people, right? You weren't actually seeing like a cast member or a character. You're just kind of seeing a real person getting like prepped to go and do one of the parades in the hot sun. I saw like Peter Pan, and it was really cool. It didn't take away the magic at all. It was awesome. And actually, just seeing how they looked kind of like normal made me appreciate the performances during the parade even more. So yeah, I thought it was really awesome. All right, so let's go out from behind from backstage. Oh, one other thing that I learned, which was really awesome, is that the buildings that are backstage but are outside are painted in green, and the color is called Go Away Green because it blends into the background really seamlessly. It's the same shade of green they used on Bruno from Encanto's cloak. So there you go. Hashtag the more you know. All right, now let's talk about lunch. So like I said before, both times they had everything set up for you. The first time when I was there, they set me up sitting with the tour guide, but I like sitting by windows. So I was like, oh, can I just sit at the table over there by myself? And they were like, oh, yeah, sure. So I ate by myself, which I had no problem doing. And in fact, like after listening to somebody talk so much, it was quite nice just to like be by myself for a few minutes. Both of the times at lunchtime, we got little presents. And the first time on your name tag, they had a little pin. And the second tour actually also gave you that pin, but they gave it to you at the end. And it wasn't on your name tag. It was like just, he passed them out, which was still special. But I should say, sitting down to lunch with your name tag and the pin right there was like extra special. But then on the second tour, the little present that we got at lunch was double stuffed Oreos, dipped Oreos that were 50th anniversary themed, and they were very special and very lovely. Then, like I said, we did the Haunted Mansion tour. Now, here is where my custodian cast member gave us so much tea. So he was saying that because he was like a team leader in the custodians team, he was in charge of cleaning up like human remains that were left on Haunted Mansion. Like some people go into Haunted Mansion and they throw the remains, ceremoniously throw the remains off the ride as a way to honor the person that has passed away. Well, you can't leave human ashes in the ride, and so they would call the custodian team, and he had a special vacuum and he had a special equipment where he vacuumed it all up, and then he said, sadly at that point, it just goes in with the rest of the garbage. But it was pretty cool to just talk about how they did all of that. And I hadn't really considered it before. He also pointed out that there is one of the windows kind of in the top of Haunted Mansion that you can see from the outside is the staff bathroom. And he said, there's nothing else up there. All those windows are fake, but that window is the staff bathroom. And I was like, oh my God, I want to see it so bad. The second tour as well, he brought us through the back entrance, which was it's like the VIP entrance, but I think it's also an entrance that they use for certain types of disabilities, I guess, because it is still like on show. It's still decorated. And so that wasn't part of the tour to see it necessarily, but it was really, really cool. I'm going to post some pictures of that for sure. And then one thing that I learned on the second tour, and I should just say I feel so dumb. I never considered this, but that there are 2 stretching rooms. I mean, like, obviously there are 2 stretching rooms. You know, like sometimes when the stretching room and then you go out to the other part of the line and there's people there and you're like, wow, where did all those people come from? Because they came from the other stretching room. So anyway, that was that was interesting to learn. All right, now let's go to the utilidors. So the utilidors, you know, there are a lot of elements of the utilidors that really do look like a 1970s community center, like when I was a camp counselor, like for day camps at some arenas, it definitely has some of that vibe because it's, again, 70s concrete. But it was really kind of cool just to see like the culture down there, all the different staff members, the things that they store, the fact it's so clean. You know, sometimes you go into like behind the scenes things or, you know, staff member rooms and everyone just seems kind of like depressed. Look, not everyone was like, you know, sunshine and rainbows and things like that, but you definitely still felt like the Disney culture. They also highlighted that there is a bus system that goes from the parking lot to the utilidors and that people get let out in the utilidors. And then they can just keep walking through the utilidors to the place where they have to go to start their shift. And so, yeah, there is a bus that goes through from the parking lot inside Magic Kingdom to underneath the castle. And you have no idea. And what was interesting is like the last time I was there, I was walking from the Contemporary to Magic Kingdom. And I was like, oh, that's so weird. There's a bus to the right of me, because usually all the buses are to the left where they will drop you off. But that bus to the right of you is going to the utilidor to drop off cast members. So that was kind of cool. The first time I did the tour, we passed the hair and makeup room and it was just really cool to see the wigs. But again, it was from kind of afar. You have to like keep walking, you know. And I also got to see a place where they do not like all of the dance choreography, but where they do some warm up and some prep stuff. And so that was kind of cool to see that area as well. But on the second tour, which was the more recent tour, so this might be something you get to experience yourself, we got to walk through the costume room. No, we got to walk through the seamstress room where they were doing the costumes. And the tour guide was like, you can't talk to them, you can't look at them, you can't touch anything, but we will walk through. And, you know, I really love like clothes and aesthetics and things like that. And like the seamstresses, I'm pretty sure did really want to talk to us. Like one of them like was showing a dress that she was working on, but we couldn't stop, we couldn't talk, you know, fine, that's fine. But that was just, oh my God, it was like a dream come true. I really want to do the tour of just that, like 10 minutes of just that, you know, I'll pay $100, no problem. And then when we left the costume area, he was telling us about, our tour guide was telling us how there are certain like fabrics and things that are proprietary to Disney World, like the iridescent fabric that all the 50th anniversary costumes were made from. And when the 50th anniversary was done and they didn't need the fabric anymore, they burnt it all because they don't need it all and they don't want other people to use it. However, he said the costume department found a bolt of fabric that hadn't gotten burnt. And so rather than burn it, what they did was they created all these tiny little swatches of the iridescent fabric that they gave you as a souvenir on the tour. And so I have a small piece of iridescent fabric that I will treasure for the rest of my life. It is just like the most special thing ever. Yeah, it was just really, oh my God, it was just so cool. So then after that, we went underneath Cinderella's castle. And the first time we were there, or it was, I don't know why I keep saying we, first time I was there, you know, she was doing her her history and all of that stuff. And there's an elevator there that will take the cast members up to the castle, but I think it's also kind of connected to like the meet and greet princess hall. And there was a woman, okay, let me explain this a little bit better. So underneath Cinderella's castle, it's actually like 2 stories. So the place that you are like walking and where the cast member, your tour guide, is talking is like 1 level, but then there's stairs to go up to a space right above her, and that's where you would get the elevator to go, not us regular people, but cast members, to go up into the castle. So both times I saw people who worked at like Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, but then the first time I was there, she was like, our tour guide was talking about something, and I looked up and I saw this young woman, and I was like, oh, that's so funny, like her like hair looks like Elsa and her makeup looks like Elsa, but she's just wearing like yoga pants. And then I was like, no, that's Elsa. She just hasn't put her costume on yet. And it was like, again, it was just amazing to be able to see a cast member out of costume up close like that. The second time we did the tour, I did see a princess come out of the elevator, but she was like fully in costume. And the tour guide was like talking and all this stuff. And then he just stopped and he said, there's a princess above my head, right? And we all were like, yeah. He said, yeah, I could tell. Like as soon as everybody like loses focus, because again, like the little hallway that takes you to the elevator is right above where the speaker is speaking. Anyway, that was really cool. And then he points out that there's this cage. This was the second tour, that there's this cage. And he said, all of that is the cleaning supplies for the Cinderella suite in Cinderella's castle. And I was like, okay, all right, that's a random piece of information. And then he says that he, again, as a team leader, was in charge of cleaning it. And he was talk about the meticulous detail that they would have. Like that room gets cleaned like every couple days, even if people aren't in it. And how there are certain measurements of how things need to be laid out. And he just talked about this whole cleaning program for this room that not a lot of people use because it's really only for giveaways. And again, hashtag custodial staff. It was so cool to hear about that. Yeah, that was awesome. And then the tour was done, and then we leave the utilidors and we say goodbye. And, at that point you were talking to one of the the fancy cast members. So if you need something or want something or have other questions, they'll definitely be able to answer it. They were able to help me with like lightning lanes to Tiana's Bayou Adventure the second time. And gosh, it was just such an incredible experience. And I would definitely do it again because the two tours were so different. But I would wait like another year or something until maybe there are some other things that they would add to the program so that I would be able to like learn something new as well. So, oh my gosh, solos. If you have listened this long, I shouldn't say this long. If you've listened this long to be able to hear all the spoilers, I hope you are as excited as I am. And if you have any questions, if there were other things, please just let me know. Send me an email or a DM through the Instagram or whatever, and I'll get back to you right away. But oh my gosh, I'm so excited to share that because that's not something you can share with coming back to work and they're like, what'd you do? Oh, I did a behind the scenes tour of Magic Kingdom. Oh yeah, I got a swatch of iridescent fabric. Oh, okay. Well, all right. But you solos, I can tell that too. And you hopefully will get as excited as I am. Anyway, it was really great to share that. The Enchanting Extras are just so awesome to do, especially solo. Just treat yourself. I can't wait to share with you the episode next week. It's going to be on things not to do solo. Oh, just seems like such a bummer, that episode. Anyway, that's the episode next week. Then after that, I'm going to talk about Disney bounding. And then I had a different idea for the first week of November. And then I remembered it is the election in the States. And so I want to make sure that there is something that week that is fun and something that can take your mind off everything else that is going on. Because I'm sure there'll be a lot going on. So there you go. All right, solos. It was so great to chat with you. I can't wait to be more online this week and to connect with you. Until next time, bye. Hey Solos, it's Samantha. I hope you enjoyed this episode as well as all the episodes of Disney Solo Magic. It has been so wonderful to create this podcast content for you and to help build this community of conversations about solo travel to Disney. And I really, really thank you for participating in the conversation. It would be even extra awesome if you could participate in the conversation by letting other people know that this conversation is happening. Please make sure you subscribe to the podcast, rate it, share it with others, and even providing a review helps the algorithm let other people who are interested in Disney content find out about this podcast. You can also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Facebook, although Instagram is the best way to get in touch with me. My Instagram handle is Disney_solo_magic_podcast. And you can find links to all that social media content in the description of this podcast below. Thank you again for sharing the magic of solo travel to Disney, and I can't wait to keep creating content for you. Bye!